Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Chaurielle. If you're new and if you're returning, thank you for coming back. Today I want to talk about something that is detrimental and is affecting women at every level. It could be whether you're a pro tennis star or you're a girl that's going through nursing school. I see it over and over again where a woman that is doing well for herself or is working towards something oftentimes meets her downfall due to the man she's dating. And I have Naomi Osaka as the thumbnail, not to bash her, but to use her as an example and a case study. And after my intro, I'll explain why I decided to use her. Like I said, it's not to bash Naomi because she's a beautiful person. She has a great heart. But it is an example of what can happen to you if you're not careful. And I always love this saying, smart people learn from their mistakes, but wise people learn from the mistakes of others. And that's why I'm using Naomi as an example to show you from an outside view as somebody who just is a tennis fan, what I've seen and how it can be prevented for the rest of us. So I do love women's tennis, even though I don't watch it often. I know who the stars are. I grew up watching Serena Williams, and as Serena got older and her career wasn't as prominent, I kept hearing things about Naomi Osaka, and she was next up basically. So how I'm going to structure this video is breaking down Naomi, like her bio, a little bit of her life from what we've known, and then how that relates to everyday women like you and me, and how our relationships with men that we love can end up being our downfall. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a permanent downfall, but it's just something that we have to fight our way back to where we were in the first place and then try to excel beyond that. So from my research, I found out that Naomi Osaka has been playing tennis since she was 3 years old. Naomi was born in Japan, and after her father saw Venus and Serena and how their father helped them become pro athletes, that inspired Naomi's father to push Naomi and her sister to be pro tennis stars as well. So in 2006, Naomi Osaka's family moved to Florida, and her father trained her and her sister during the daytime, and at nighttime they were homeschooled. Naomi turned pro in tennis in 2013, and she was selected Newcomer of the Year in 2016 by the Women's Tennis Association. So she really skipped juniors and went right to pro because she was that girl. She's been training since a child. So Naomi's parents really sacrificed so much for her to become who she is today. And she proved them, to be a great investment, all that time and energy, because Naomi started climbing up the rankings in women's tennis. So 2018 was really a huge moment for her because not only did she win the U.S. Open, but she ended up defeating Serena Williams to do so. And I remember this was everywhere in the media. I was definitely paying attention, and it was just amazing seeing, Serena was on the latter end of her career, but still beating Serena Williams at any point in her career is nothing to scoff at, is nothing to belittle, because Serena is a powerhouse. So seeing Naomi, such a young girl, accomplish this feat was amazing to watch and exciting because we all knew she was going to be the next big thing in women's tennis. But this is where things took a turn for her mentally, because although Naomi won that match, she couldn't really celebrate it because people weren't happy for her. A lot of the fans were booing.
It is Naomi's moment, but much of the story, as it always is, centers around Serena Williams. Time for the trophies and that big check.
Good evening, everyone, and we welcome you to the trophy celebration.
And she just, from that point, had mental health issues regarding tennis because of that bittersweet victory that she won. And as she's at the top of her game, still dealing with mental health issues, but still prevailing because she won the 2019 Australian Open after she had beat Serena in 2018. In 2019 is when she met her boyfriend. And when I bring this stuff up, this is not to like gossip or have tea, but it is what it is because all of us women can relate and we've all done this. When you meet a man, when you are on your path to greatness, when you're working toward your purpose, oftentimes it becomes a distraction. And that's what it seems it was for Naomi in the end. I'm not saying her child's father is a bad person, but we've all noticed as tennis fans, once she got in that relationship, things started to go downhill. It is what it is. So in 2019, when she met her boyfriend, she was ranked number 3. 2020, we all know the pandemic hit. She had the same ranking. And that's when Naomi's mental health started to bleed into her career even more, because in 2021, she dropped out of the French Open due to mental health issues. And like I said prior, she already had things she was dealing with from defeating Serena, then the pressures of being on top, then you have the pandemic, and now you have a boyfriend. And sometimes when you're with a man, especially if it's like your first boyfriend, your emotions are almost all over the place, and it's hard to have your mind in 2 different places, to have it fully focus on tennis when you're in a relationship where you feel like you're in love. And then from 2021, she went from being ranked number 3 to number 13, still in the relationship. And then in 2022, she went from being ranked number 13 to being ranked number 42. So that's a huge drop. And this is while she's still with the boyfriend. So from the time she's with the boyfriend to each year afterward, her rankings are plummeting. And yes, it was partially due to mental health, but it's also from being with a boyfriend prematurely when you're on the road to trying to be a champion and stay a champion. It's hard to do both, and you're very young doing this. And as she's still struggling with depression and anxiety, in 2023, she wasn't ranked at all because she was pregnant and she gave birth that year. And babies are blessings, but at the same time, it's like the timing of things and the choices we're making here is like, dang, now you're not ranked at all in this 2023. And now, I think it was like a year or 2 afterward, after the baby, I remember her announcing on Instagram she's no longer in that relationship. So now it's like you're a single mother, you're not ranked, and you're trying to fight your way back to being a champion. And it's just all from being with somebody that you feel like you loved and brought something to your life, but at the end of the day, it was your downfall, because ever since you're with that person, you didn't get better, you got worse. And of course, mental health is a real thing, but it doesn't help when you have a partner, when you should just be trying to strengthen yourself on your own sometimes. And in 2024, she was ranked 58, and now it's 2025. And at this very moment, she's ranked 53. And this does not mean it's the end for Naomi. It's definitely not the end. She's still very young, talented, and healthy. But this is what I'm talking about. It's like inserts boyfriend, inserts man in general. When the time wasn't necessarily right, now you're picking up the pieces and you have to fight harder than you ever have when you've worked for this since you were 3 years old. And that's why I titled this, A Man Could Be Your Downfall. And I have 3 points that help to break down just how it affects us as women when we're with a man that we don't necessarily need to be with right now. So my first point is that the timing of the relationship needs to make sense. Of course, there's never a right time to do something. There's never the perfect time to be with somebody. But at the same time, there's definitely times where you should be like, do I really need to be with somebody right now? And it's not, most of the time the answer is no. Especially when you're younger and you're trying to develop your career, develop yourself. That stuff can wait. A lot of the times when I see a successful man, he may have a bunch of women. He may have a girl that's not right for him, but he still ends up achieving things because men are just built different than women. They have different hormones in us. They compartmentalize things different than we do in our heads. But women, when we get in a relationship, we give it our all most of the time. When we have good intentions and we feel like we love somebody, we can't help but pour ourselves out for them, pour our cups out for them. And that's just how hard we love. And the bad thing about that sometimes is when you do this at the wrong period of your life, you give your all to somebody, now you have nothing left, or you don't have enough left to focus on all the things you've worked hard for before this person came into your life. Prematurely getting in a relationship with somebody when you're a young woman or a woman trying to achieve a big goal can stunt your growth. It can stop your achievements. It alters your focus, and you can risk losing yourself. We all know how it is when you need to get in that beast mode and you have to lock in. But it's almost impossible to lock in when your heart is like melting and you just want to cuddle with your man. It's just how it is. Or you're like, you know what, this is important to me, but this man is important to me. So you end up choosing the man. You spend more time with him. You're not as focused in practice, or you're not in your books, or you're not in the gym like you should be. There's different things that affects our productivity and our excellence when we're with a man when the time doesn't make sense. It actually ends up backfiring. My second point of how to avoid a man being your downfall is assessing the relationship's effect on your life and on your habits. A lot of the time, a way you can see if a relationship is not at the right time or is not for you or serving you is if it ends up distracting you. It ends up enabling you to not be your best, to get comfortable, to ignore things. And it's not always your partner's fault. Like I said, as women, once we fall in love or feel like we're in love, we naturally don't want to invest in ourselves the way we want to invest in our partner. It's just how we are, and that's where we end up tripping up. I really feel like if you're a young woman under 25, you shouldn't be in a rush to get in a relationship because you don't even know who you are. You really need to have your own identity and know who you are before you're with somebody. That's just my opinion. Otherwise, that relationship kind of consumes you because you may not have boundaries, a backbone, and different things that you need to have a successful relationship that doesn't negatively affect your personal life. Also, having standards comes with time. So I feel like when you're older and you're more mature, you have better standards. It's unfortunate because Naomi, I'm not saying like, oh, it's terrible, like you're a baby mother, but she grew up with parents that were together. You know, traditionally what kids should have, which is mom and dad together under one roof, and now you've created a broken home because you didn't have this standard of saying, I'm not having your child unless we're married. Now it just makes things harder because when you're with somebody, you do think you're going to be with them forever, and the kid is just going to add to that. But sometimes a child makes it harder and tears people apart. I'm not saying I know their lives, but I'm just saying from people that I know, like adding a child to an equation of a relationship with super young people that have two different lifestyles, it's not always good. And another thing is, like when I talk about assessing your life, does this person really match my lifestyle? Do they get up at the same time as me? Do they eat right? Do they work out like I work out? Are they as disciplined as me? Do our lifestyles match? Are they night owls while I'm up in the morning? Do they distract me? Do they keep me up on the phone all night when I know I have work in the morning? There's certain things you have to assess before you let somebody in your life and have full access to you, especially when you're a pro athlete, man or woman. And a lot of this assessment, a lot of these standards, like I said, a lot of these boundaries, like I said, come with age. You just have to mature and live life a little bit before you start getting locked down and being with somebody on a serious level. It's just not necessary, especially when you're on the quest like Naomi to be one of the greatest. Like, you know what I mean? It's like that will always be there. You don't need to do that. And I'm not bashing her because she was young, and women, we're all susceptible to this. We all can end up in a relationship that we don't need to be in. We've all done it. But it's just smarter to get out of it sooner before you feel like you can't get out of it. Because once there's a certain point in time, women, we really feel like, oh, I don't think I can leave this person. Or you end up falling in love and you don't want to leave. And the third point I want to make to avoid having a man be your downfall is healing from your traumas and doing it preferably while you're single. Anytime you don't heal something, it will get revealed in the end. When you don't heal your traumas, when you don't heal your pains, you end up running in the arms of somebody that you sometimes don't need to be with. And say that person is broken as well. Now there's two traumatized, broken people together, both depressed together, both anxious together, and you end up being addicted to each other and having a trauma bond. And it's just not a good thing. I feel like as much as possible, you should be healed and whole before you enter a relationship with somebody, and they need to be healed and whole, because sometimes when we're the healed person and somebody comes in our life who's broken, we feel like we can fix them, we can help heal them. And while doing that, sometimes you end up being broken again. All those scars and wounds you made an effort to heal end up being reopened, and now you're just bleeding all over each other. So people need to be, not just women, but like both people need to be healed before you get in a relationship. And a lot of the times that comes with maturity too, which usually is linked to age. Live a little, grow up, have your frontal lobe develop, and go to therapy, whatever you have to do, get deliverance, spend time with God. Heal your traumas before you get with somebody. And my camera cut off on me, but I ended up talking about how I've met several women during my journey of starting a business, doing clothing, making these videos. And they told me to stay focused and keep going because they actually got into committed relationships themselves. And now they're both married and they've never gotten to achieve certain things they wanted to do because of that. And they've told me in confidence, like, it was my dream to go to Paris and do hair. It was my dream to be a TV host. But they didn't do it because they ended up getting in a relationship and they got married. And yes, they love their husbands. Yes, they love their children. But they never got to achieve their dreams. They were stunted. And now it's just a big what if. So you just don't want a what if or I should have as a young woman, because once we do get in a relationship and we get serious, sometimes we do put our dreams, our hopes, our desires on the back burner for our family. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you had the time to achieve it, why would you prematurely be with somebody and end up never achieving or becoming who you could have been because this man came in and now ultimately he was your downfall? So let's really just focus on ourselves, ladies. The men will always be there. If you take care of yourself and you're a woman of value, you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, he likes me and I like him. What if this will never happen again? Like, this is my only shot. Your only shot is your dreams right now. Your only shot are the choices you're making, and you just don't want to make your life harder by being with somebody, especially when it didn't work out and now you have to pick the pieces up. Like I said before, it's just a horrible feeling to know you could have been way further if you just didn't get distracted by being with this person that you didn't even need to be with. So if you like my video, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to, subscribe to me and share this with your friends. Thank you for watching. You are appreciated.